So true, so true. Okay, wait. To clarify, my idea is that I will both take turns reading out transcripts while we do the thing.
It's gonna be hard to
So
focus.
I
It's
do
hard.
suggest you.
It's going to be hard to focus on Minecraft while we're reading out the Magnus archives. What a way to start the stream!
No.
Good
Well,
God!
one of us will read it out while the other plays.
Ah, we're doing the funny
That way
BCSMP.
carpal tunnel doesn't reach me from art fight.
So true. So true. I'm going onto
Carpal tunnel,
BCSMP server as we speak.
Wait. Did I even sync up my mic?
Well, you're synced up for me, and it should be. Well, it's working.
Thumbs up.
It's working fine on my end.
Thumbs up. I do believe I have a microphone.
Howdy everyone, Screeny here. That's my intro. I'm supposed to do an intro. But but we're not even doing funny. You can't see me because I'm in summer break. I'm at my grandma's, and I'm not wearing a bra. So
Hashtag win.
Win for me. So true.
Okay.
I have to play.
Would you like to? Wait.
God, it's slow. Minecraft,
okay. Would you like to do the honors of reading it out first, or should I?
Sure. Yeah. I'll go to the Oh shit. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm gonna make it funny. There's the background, cuz we're not exactly doing a be right back situation here. Send me the transcript, homie.
If you search up hold on. Yeah, I'll send it. We're starting from episode 2 because who cares for episode 1? Also, Jonathan Sims says lol weirdly, and I don't want to listen to that ever again.
Yeah.
I hear the dogs. Okay, let's start.
We're doing.
Oh, I'm in Jonathan Sims skin. This is so appropriate.
We're doing this until more people join the BCSMP.
Yeah, exactly. I just realized how high I have my FOV. I'm gonna die instantly.
Archivist, statement of Joshua Gillespie regarding his time in possession of an apparently empty wooden casket. Original statement given November 22nd, 1998. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. The statement begins.
1 second. Oh yeah, go ahead.
It started when I was in Amsterdam for a holiday with a few of my friends. Everything you're thinking right now, you're right. We were all early 20s, just graduated and decided to spend a couple weeks going crazy on the continent. So you can almost certainly fill in all the blanks yourself. There are very few points where I'd say I was entirely sober, and every few where I acted like it. Though there wasn't quite as bad as some of my friends who had a hard time handling themselves at times. This may have been why I headed out alone that morning. No idea of the exact date, but it was sometime in mid-May. The others were sleeping off their assorted hangovers, and I decided to head out into the beautiful sunshine of that Netherlands morning and take a walk. Before graduating from Cardiff with the others, I had been studying architecture, so I was looking forward to spending a few hours by myself to wander. And I really take in the buildings of central Amsterdam. I was not disappointed. It's a beautiful city, but I realized too late that I hadn't taken any map or guidebook with me, and an hour or two later I was thoroughly lost. I wasn't particularly worried, as it was still mid-afternoon at this point, and getting lost in the back streets had kind of been what I was trying to do, but I still decided I'd better make an actual effort to find my way back to where my friends and I were staying off Ellandstraat? Ellandstraat? I managed it.
Take your time. I have no idea what you're saying anyway.
I managed it eventually, but my inability to speak Dutch meant I spent a good hour riding the wrong way on various trams. By the time I got back to Ellandstraat, it was starting to get dark and I was feeling quite stressed, so I decided to pop into one of the cafes to relax before joining up with my friends. I couldn't say for sure exactly how long I was in there, but I knew it had gotten fully dark by the time I noticed I wasn't sat at my table alone.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Uh-oh. I've tried to describe the man who now sat opposite me many times, but it's difficult. He was short, very short, and felt like he had an odd density to him. His hair was brownish, I think, cut quite short, and he was clean-shaven. His face and dress was utterly unremarkable, and the more I try to picture of exactly what he looked like, the harder it is to picture him clearly. To be honest, though, I'm inclined to blame that on the drugs. The man introduced himself as John, not the other one. This is a John with an H in it. I asked how, and asked how I was. I replied as best I could, and he nodded, saying that he was also an Englishman inside a foreign land. I remember he used that exact phrase because it struck me as very odd at the time as very odd. He said he was from Liverpool, though I don't recall having him any sort of accent, and that he was looking for a friend he could rely on a favor.
Yikes.
Now, high as I was, I got suspicious as soon as he said that last part, and I started to shake my head. John said it was nothing too onerous, just looking after a package for him until he had some friends to pick it up. And he would pay well. I thought he was talking about smuggling, and I was about to refuse him again when he reached into his jacket, I think, pulled out an envelope. Inside was 10,000, that's either the symbol for pounds or euros, I don't know. I know, I counted it.
British people.
British people! I knew it was a stupid move, but I kept remembering my friend Richard telling me how easy it had been to get a pound of hash through customs on his first trip in Holland, knowing that much cash in my hands. I said yes. John smiled to thank me and said he would be in touch. He left the coffee shop, and I immediately started panicking about what I agreed to. I wanted to chase after him and return the money, but something weighed me down, kept me locked into the seat. I just sat there for a long time. Oh-ho! Fucked up little powers? Fucked up little powers?
Oh shit, oh shit.
I'm fucking reading a literal fucking horror short. This is so funny.
Creepypasta IRL.
It's creepypasta IRL. It's fucking Jurgen Leitner. I don't remember much about the next few days except worrying about when I'd see John again. I was careful not to spend any of the money he'd give me and decided to return it as soon as he turned up. I'd say I'd made a mistake and couldn't take his money or look after anything for him, and I tried to enjoy myself, but it was like a shadow was hanging over me and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I waited for days. I waited for days, right up until the end of our trip, but he never showed up. I obsessively checked my suitcase before boarding the plane home, just in case someone had snuck something into it, but there was nothing new there. I flew back to England with my friends, still high, and 10,000 pounds tucked into my coat pocket. It was surreal. It wasn't until almost a year later that I felt confident enough to actually spend any of the money. I'd moved down to work for a small architect's firm in Bournemouth on the south coast. Oh, it was an entry level.
Jonathan Sim's birthplace.
Like Jonathan Sim's birthplace? It was an entry.
Became the joke of it.
It was an entry level job, and the pay wasn't great, but it was the only offer I'd gotten in my chosen field. So I moved down there with the hopes of getting some experience and a better position in a year or two. Bournemouth was a decent sized seaside town, though much less idyllic than I'd assumed it would have been. Rents for a place on my own were a bit out of my price range, given my starting pay grade. I didn't know anyone else down there, and I wasn't keen to share my space with strangers, so I decided to use some of the money I'd been given in Amsterdam the previous year, a reason they were unlikely to find me at this stage. I'd not given John any of my details when he spoke to me, not even my name, and if they hadn't been able to find me over the course of the last year, it was doubtful they'd be able to track me here. Also, if it hadn't been drug smuggling, as I had suspected, 10,000 pounds probably wasn't so much money to them as that they'd track me this far over it. Also, in looking back, this sounds stupid, but I'd just grown a beard and thought it would be hard for anyone to recognize me as the same guy, so I spent a nice bit of John's money on renting a nice one-bedroom flat near the Triangle, near the town center, and
Sorry, go back.
Near the town center, and moved in almost immediately. Christ, what the fuck is going on in my...
Sorry.
You were going apeshit in Minecraft, and I heard a bunch of doors opening. About a week later, I was in my kitchen cutting up some fruit for breakfast. I heard the doorbell ring. I answered it to see two red-faced delivery men. Between them, they carried an immense package, which they'd clearly had to maneuver up the narrow stairs of the building I lived in. They asked if I was Joshua Gillespie, and when I said yes, they said they had a delivery addressed to me and pushed it past into the hall. They didn't seem to be from any delivery company I knew, and they weren't wearing any uniforms. I tried to ask them some questions, but as soon as they placed the box on the floor, they turned around and walked out. They were both well over 6 feet tall and very imposing, so there was little I could have done to stop them leaving, even if I wanted to. Fucking grammar, I tells you what.
Yeah.
I'm catching up. I checked another tab and lost my mark.
It's okay.
even if I'd wanted to, the door slammed behind them and I was left alone with this package. It was about 2 meters long, maybe 1 meter wide, and roughly the same deep. It was sealed with parcel tape, and written on the top was my name and address in thick, curving letters, but there was no return address or postmark of any sort. I was starting to risk being late for work at this point, but I decided I couldn't bring myself to leave without seeing what was inside, so I fetched the knife from the counter and cut the tape, keeping the box closed. Inside was a coffin. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. When I fell to the floor, I just stared at it in mute surprise. It was made of unvarnished, pale yellow wood, and had a thick metal chain wrapped around it, which was closed at the top with a heavy iron padlock. The lock was closed, but had the key sitting inside of it. I started to reach for it when I noticed two other things on the coffin lid. The first was a piece of paper, folded in half and tucked under the chain, which I took. The other was the presence of 3 words, scratched deep into the wood of the casket in letters 3 inches high. They read, "Do not open." Oh,
Wow.
roll credits!
Yeah.
I withdrew my hand from the padlock slowly, unsure what I was supposed to do. At some point I must have sat down, as I found myself on the floor, propped against the wall, staring at this bizarre thing that had inexplicably, I can't read, turned up at my home.
I can't either.
I remembered the piece of paper at this point and unfolded it, and it simply read, "Delivered with gratitude, J." Strange as it sounds, it was only then I made the connection with the man I'd met in Amsterdam. He told me he wanted someone to look after a package for a while. Was this the package he was talking about? Was I to be looking after a corpse? Who was coming to pick it up? When? I called in sick to work and just sat there, watching the coffin for what might have been been minutes or might have been hours. I just had no idea what to do. Eventually I steeled myself and moved towards it until my face was just inches away from the lid. I'm losing my flow here. I took a deep breath, trying to see if I could smell anything from inside. Nothing. If there was a dead body in there, it hadn't started to smell yet. Not that I really knew what a dead body smelled like. It was early summer at this point, which means they must have died recently, if there was a body in there at all. As I got up, my hand brushed the wood of the coffin, and I realized it was warm, very warm, like it had been lying in the sun for hours. Something about it made my flesh crawl slightly, and I withdrew my hand quickly. Oh, so it gives you the heebie-jeebies. I see. It's the fucked up little buried artifact or whatever. Yes.
Fucked up little guy. He's a little bitch.
Yes.
Sorry, that was too mean.
I decided to make a cup of tea. It was somewhat of a relief standing next to the kettle, as from that angle I couldn't see the thing out in the hall. I could just ignore it. I didn't move even after I'd filled my mug. I'd just sit there sipping my tea, not even noticing that it was still far too hot to drink comfortably. When I finally got the nerve to step back out into the hall, the coffin still lay there, unmoving. Just checking Minecraft. I finally made a decision and, firmly gripping the padlock, I removed the key and placed it into the hall table next to the door. Placed it on the hall table next to the door. I then took hold of the coffin and chain and started pulling it further into my flat. It was weird to touch. The wood had still unsettling warmth through it, but the chain was as cold as you'd expect from a thick piece of iron. It apparently hadn't taken on any of the heat. I didn't have any cupboards with enough space to hold the thing, so in the end I just dragged it into my living room and pushed it up against the wall, as out of the way as possible. I cut up the cardboard box had been sealed in, and put it with the rubbish outside. And just like that, I had apparently started storing a coffin in my home. Holy shit, there's several other paragraphs after this. Good fucking god.
Yeah. Coffin.
I'm
becoming the Joker.
At the time, I assumed it was full of drugs. At least as far as I assumed anything about the situation. Why anyone would store something in such a noticeable way, or with a total stranger like me? These weren't questions I could even guess an answer to. But I decided it was best to think about it as little as possible. I'm going to take a sip of my ginger ale.
I think.
For the next few days, I avoided my living room, as I found being so close to the thing made me nervous. I was also staying alert for the smell of any rot, which might indicate there was something dead inside the coffin after all. I never smelled anything, though, and as the days went on, and as the days passed, I found myself noticing my mysterious charge less and less. About a week after it arrived, I finally started using my living room again. I'd watch TV, mostly, and keep half an eye on the unmoving casket. At one point, I got so cocky as to actually use it as a table. I was drinking a glass of orange juice at the time and absentmindedly placed it on top of the lid, not really realizing what I had done. And at least not until I heard movement from underneath it.
Ah, yike.
Yes, yike. I froze, listening intently and staring, willing myself to have been imagining things, but then it came again. A soft but insistent scratching just below where I had placed my glass. It was slow and deliberate and caused gentle ripples to spread across the surface of my juice. Needless to say, I was terrified. More than that, I was confused. The coffin had been lying in my living room, chained and unmoving, for well over a week at this point. If there had been anything living in there when it was delivered, it seemed unlikely it would still be alive. And why hadn't it made any sound before if there was something in there capable of movement? I gently picked up the glass and immediately the scratching stopped. I waited for some time considering my options before I placed it back on the other end of the lid. It took about 4 seconds for the scratching to start up again, now more insistently. When I took the glass away this time, it didn't stop for another 5 minutes. I decided against doing any further experiments and instead made the very deliberate decision to ignore it. I felt at that point I either needed to use the heavy iron key to open it and see for myself what was in there, or fold the gouged instruction and resolve myself to never look inside. Some might call me a coward, but I decided on the latter, and I would interact with it as little as possible while I lived in my house. Well, I guess lived may be the wrong term. I knew I'd made the right decision the next time it rained, and I heard the box begin to moan.
Uh-oh.
It was Saturday, and I was spending the day staying in and doing some light reading. I had few friends in Bournemouth. Something about having a mysterious coffin lying in my living room made me reluctant to make the sort of connections that might lead to people coming around. And so I spent most of my free time alone. I didn't watch a lot of television even before my living room was taken over with storing this thing, and so now I found myself sat in my room reading quite a lot. I remember I just started Michael Crichton's The Lost World at the time, and it started raining outside.
We don't care, dweeb. Sorry. Continue.
It was a hard, heavy rain, the sort that falls straight down with no wind to disturb it, until everything is dark and wet. It was barely past midday, but I remember the sky was so overcast and gloomy that I had to get up to turn on the light, and that's when I heard it.
Oh. Uh-oh.
And that's when I heard it.
Barney's watching this stream. I'm sorry, Barney.
Oh, Barney? Barney watch? Am
Barney,
I not so...
If you're watching this stream, sorry for trampling on your crops. I genuinely didn't mean to. Broken heart emoji.
It was a low, gentle sound. I've seen Dawn of the Dead. I know that the groans of the undead are meant to sound like... I know what the groans of the undead are meant to sound like, but it wasn't that at all. It was almost melodious. It sounded almost like singing, if it was muffled by 20 feet of hardback soil. At first I thought it might have been coming from one of the other flats in my building, but as it went on, and the hairs of my arm began to stand on end, I just knew where it was coming from. I walked to the living room and stood in the doorway, watching as the sealed box continued to moan its soft musical sound out at the rain.
Fuck that.
Oh, that little guy likes rain. I like it. It's just a little dude. It's just a little guy. There's nothing to be done. I'd made my decision not to open it, and this certainly did not make me want to reconsider that. So I just went back to my bedroom, put on some music, and turned it up loud enough to drown out the sounds. So it continued for a few months. Whatever was in the casket would scratch at anything placed on top of it and moan whenever it rained, and that was that. I suppose it goes to show that you can get used to anything if you have to, no matter how bizarre. I occasionally considered getting rid of it, or finding people like you guys to investigate, but in the end I decided I was actually more afraid of whoever was responsible for entrusting me with the coffin than the actual coffin itself, so I kept it secret.
I would too.
The only thing that worried me was sleeping. I think it gave me bad dreams. I don't remember my dreams, never had, and if I was getting nightmares, they were no different. I didn't remember them and certainly don't now, but I know I kept waking up with panic, clutching at my throat and struggling to breathe. Never mind, it's not a cute little guy. I also started sleepwalking. The first time that happened, it was the cold that woke me up. It was the middle of winter, and I did not keep the heating on when I'm asleep. It took me a few seconds to fully process where I was. I was standing in the dark in my living room over the coffin. What concerned me more about the situation was the fact that when I awoke, I seemed to be holding the key in my hand.
Hello.
Obviously, this worried me. I even went to my GP about it, who referred me to the sleep clinic at the nearby hospital, but the problems never reoccurred in a clinical setting. I decided to hide the key in more and more difficult to access places, but I still kept waking up with it, and I was starting to panic. When I woke one morning to find I'd actually placed the key within the lock and was, as far as I could tell, moments from opening it, I knew I had to find a solution. In the end, what I took to doing was perhaps a bit elaborate, but it seemed to work. I'd placed the key within a bowl of water and then put it in the freezer, encasing it in a solid block of ice. I still sometimes found myself trying to get to the key in my sleep, but the chill of the ice always woke me up long before I could do anything with it. And in the end, it just became yet another part of my routine.
Girl boss?
Girl boss? I lived like
Girl
that
boss?
for almost a year and a half. It's funny how fear can just become as routine as hunger. At a certain point, I just accepted it. My first clue that my time keeping the coffin was coming to an end when it began to rain and there was silence. I didn't notice it at first, as my habit at that point had been to put on the music as soon as the weather began to turn, but after a few minutes I realized that there wasn't anything to drown out. I turned off my music and went to check. The living room was silent, and then came a knock at the door. The sound was light and unobtrusive, but it rang out like a thunder in the quiet flat. I knew what I'd see as I opened the door, and I was right. John and the two delivery men stood there. I wasn't surprised to see them, as I say, but they actually seemed quite surprised to see me. John had to take a second to look me up and down, almost in disbelief, and as I asked if they'd come to collect their coffin. He said that they had, and he hoped it hadn't been too much trouble. I told him where he could stick it, and he didn't seem to have an answer for that. He didn't seem genuinely impressed, however, that when I got the key out of the freezer, I didn't even try a thought. I was so eager to have this thing out of my life that I just dropped the bowl of ice to the floor and shattered it. I watched as John picked up the icy key off the floor and told them it was in the living room. I didn't follow that. Wow, you don't have a door that opens directly into your living room? Fucking rich boy, hello?
Hello, rich man. Hello, hi.
I didn't follow them. I didn't want to see what they did with the coffin. I didn't want to see if they opened it, and when the screaming started, I didn't want to see who was screaming or why. I only left the kitchen when the two delivery men carried the coffin past the door. I followed them down the stairs and watched in the pouring rain as they locked it in a small van marked Beacon and Hope Deliveries. Then they drove away. There was no sign of John. That was the last I heard of it. I got a new job and moved to London shortly afterwards, and now I just tried not to think about it. Do I have to read the shit John says?
Yes. Sorry. I have to do it too. Fucking shanked by a bush.
Statement ends.
I hate that guy. I fucking hate Jonathan.
It's always nice to hear that my hometown is not entirely devoid of odd occurrences and eerie stories. Ice cream, beaches, and boredom are all very well, but I'm glad to hear Bournemouth has at least a few apparitions to call its own. That said, the fact that Mr. Gillespie's statement starts with drug use and continues on with a lack of corroborating witnesses being a central theme, which means that an eerie story is all that it is. When the Institute first investigated, it didn't look like they would find a single piece of evidence to support the existence of this scratch coffin, and to be honest, I didn't think it was worth wasting anyone's time over now, nearly 20 years later. That said, I did mention it to Tim yesterday, and apparently he did some digging of his own. Beacon and Hope did, in fact, exist, and they were a courier service that operated until 2009, when they went into liquidation. They were based in Nottingham, however, significantly north of Bournemouth, and if they kept records of their deliveries, they are no longer available. What is interesting, however, is the address of Mr. Gillespie provided for the flat that all this took place in. The housing association that ran it does keep extensive record on the tenants that have lived in their buildings going back some 40 or 50 years. From what Tim could find, it appears for the 2 years of his residence, Mr. Gillespie was the only person in that entire building, with the other 7 flats being utterly vacant. Nobody moved in following his departure, and the building was sold to a developer and demolished shortly after this statement was originally given. Coffin scared people away. Hello?
Hello?
Predictably, no one...
Is the imposter from Among Us?
Gonna kill you. Predictably, no one who worked for that housing association in the 90s is still there, and despite Tim's best efforts, we could get no explanation for why, in a building of that size, Mr. Gillespie spent almost 2 years living alone, save for an old wooden coffin. Recording ends.
Sorry, I'm becoming the Joker. Okay. After this night, I'll Okay. I can do the thing now. I can do the thing.
Christ.
Okay. Ha 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 ha. Haha, Jonathan, you are reading the statements.
Jonathan. Jonathan, you are reading the statements.
Okay.
Hold on, I need to. Fuck, I full screened my Minecraft,
Okay,
so I have to
I have
resize
to
the
quote.
fucking actual thing. Christ. Ah, shit. Hold on.
Okay. Anyways, have fun playing Minecraft. I have to do this while I work.
Yeah.
Alright. Oh.
That I'm
This is
going
the
to be
Joker
honest. I'm going to be
scream.
honest. That I did not enjoy doing that. My lungs hurt.
Don't worry, I start foaming at the mouth whenever I listen to the Magnus Archive. Not listen to it, but whenever I read the Magnus Archives. Alright. Statement of Amy Patel regarding the alleged disappearance of her acquaintance Graham Folger. Original statement given July 1st, 2007. Audio recording done by Jonathan Sims, head archivist of the Magnus Institute, London. Statement begins. I first met Graham 2 years ago, more or less. It's hard to say exactly when we first met or even started talking, but we were taking a class together at the time. I'm sure there was plenty of discussion or interaction before we learned each other's names, but I started my course in September of 2005, so yeah, about 2 years. I decided to take a criminology course at the Birkbeck University as a way of getting out of the rut of my office job. I'm an associate compliant analyst at Deloitte? I don't know. And if you think that sounds boring, well, yeah. I knew a night course in criminology wasn't going to go anywhere, of course, but even if I finished it, I just had to do
Oh
something
god, I need to show you
to
guys
find a
Among
bit of
Us
interest in
Valley.
my life, and I was either that or become an alcoholic. So, oh, I thought someone joined the BC.
No, I need to show the stream the probably very no people watching my stream Among Us Valley. This is the most important part. This is the part I've been waiting for. Do you understand? Here's the
Okay.
McDonald.
Sorry, I'm getting off topic. I initially found Graham a bit off-putting, to be honest. He was a chain smoker and wore far too much deodorant to try and cover up the smell. He was a bit older than me, maybe 10 years or so. I never asked his age. I mean, we weren't that close, but he was starting to gray at the edges of his hair, and you could see that the tiredness on his face wasn't just from missing a single night's sleep. It's not to say he was bad looking. He had a round, open sort of face with quite deep blue eyes, but he was very much not my type. He was well spoken in group work, at least when he did speak. I think it came up that he'd been to Oxford, though I don't know what college. I'm sorry. Every time I see this particular interpretation of every time I hear this version of Graham, I fucking think of Human Wheatley.
Why?
I don't know. Don't ask.
You think of Human Wheatley because of the internet.
He always seemed to. What, huh?
You think of Human Wheatley because we've got a Wheatley on the server.
No, not even. I just think of I don't know. I just associate. Jesus Christ, my English.
Associate.
Sus Among Us imposter.
Oh god.
Okay. I noticed earlier that during lectures, he always seemed to be scribbling furiously in a notebook. That even when the lecturer wasn't speaking. At first, I just thought he was thorough, but I swear I watched him fill a whole A5 notebook in one lecture. I remember it was a talk on youth and the justice system, where the speaker was so slow that it wouldn't have hit the book, even if Graham had been writing down literally every word. Mentioned I asked to borrow his notes once for an essay, and he gave me this weird look and said he didn't have any notes. So, yeah, point is, I wouldn't have called him a friend, but we got on all right. It was about 4 months into my course that I first encountered Graham outside of university. I was riding the night bus home, and having gone for a couple of drinks and missed the regular service. I live in Clapham, so there's a pretty regular night bus service headed there. Of course, regular also means drunk and angry vomiters, so yeah, I generally try to be unobtrusive, sitting in the seat at the back in the top floor. Double-decker bus?
Double-decker? Double-decker bus for us?
Double bus for us? It was there I saw Graham. He was sitting on the right at the front, staring out the window. People watching was one of my guilty pleasures, so I decided not to say hello, but at least not right away. I wasn't disappointed either. He was stranger alone than he'd ever been during class. It was the middle of winter at this point, so the windows were solid with condensation, but he almost obsessively wiped it away from the one in front of him. But he almost obsessively wiped it away from the one in front of him the moment it started to obscure his view. He seemed to be intently scanning the street for something, except that at times he would crane his neck to stare at the roofs of buildings passing by.
The eye?
He
The eye?
seemed nervous as well. Huh?
The eye? The eye? View? Watch?
The guy? Oh,
The eye?
The eye too, but
View? Watch? See? See this watcher? I want this twink obliterated?
Seeing? Being watched? I want
Viewing?
voice, I want this twink obliterated. Brock just said Mamma Mia in chat a while back.
Cripes. What?
In my chat. Yeah. He seemed nervous as well as he was breathing. He seemed nervous as well and was breathing way faster than normal, which fogged up his window even more. It was slightly alarming to watch, to be honest, and I finally made up my mind to tell him I was there. He jumped a bit when I greeted him, and I asked him if he was all right. He told me he usually didn't stay out late and found nighttime public transport unsettling. I sat next to him, and he seemed to get much more relaxed, so I didn't push the issue. We talked for a while about nothing in particular, until the bus started to approach my stop. Hold on, I have to check that my hunger bar isn't going too low.
Your hunger can lower just from standing around? I never found that would happen.
I don't think it does, but I just get scared.
Fair enough.
The bus started to approach my stop. As I rose, I noticed that Graham had stood up at the exact same time as I had, and I realized with some discomfort that we might live at the same stop. I liked the guy fine, don't get me wrong, but I still didn't really feel okay with him knowing where I lived. But yeah, it was obvious that I'd gotten up to get off the bus, and I couldn't really ride to the next stop, and it wasn't even that I felt unsafe with Graham, it's just I'm a private person. And yet you people watch. Very... Yeah, sure.
Very definitely, yes. Very you. Yes. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm foaming at the mouth again.
You're normal, you're so normal. Shout out to one person who ever watches my streams ever. I haven't even shared my stream to Discord for this one.
Watching me narrate.
Watching narration as I walk around. Like, I've got a stream going too, and we're just switching.
Yeah. I decided to just walk back with him as far as necessary and make sure he didn't see what building I went into. Maybe we weren't even walking in the same direction. Jesus Christ, the British. Maybe we weren't even walking in the same direction. Yeah, we were walking in the exact same direction. We even seemed to be heading in the same street. It was at that point I felt a hand grab my shoulder and throw me into the road.
Ah, fuck.
I don't know how else to describe it. One moment I was walking along, next I was flying towards the ground. Can't have been Graham. He was in front of me at the time, and I would have sworn there was nobody else on the street. There weren't any cars coming, but I hit my head hard. I think I might have been unconscious for a few seconds because the next thing I remember is a panicky Graham on the phone to an ambulance.
Ceaseless watcher.
I was all right, but it didn't really manage to get the words out, which, yeah, probably meant I wasn't all right. The ambulance arrived in pretty good time, considering it was in London on a Friday night, and the paramedics gave me a look over. I was told that the injury itself wasn't serious. Apparently, head wounds always bleed that much, and it was nothing to panic about. But I did have quite a nasty concussion, and shouldn't be left alone for the next few hours. Even though we were within sight of my door, I had for some reason settled upon the idea of Graham never finding out where I lived. In retrospect, this is likely the concussion talking, but the upshot was I agreed to go back to Graham's flat to recover. He was quite awkward about the whole thing and took great pains to assure me that there was nothing untoward the situation. Apparently he was a gay. He was a gay? Hello?
So true.
He was gay. Apparently he was gay, which I'll admit actually did reassure me a bit. Still, it was clear this wasn't how either of us had hoped to be ending our nights. Love wins. The man who this conspicuous paranoid man is gay.
But diversity win!
Diversity win! Okay. As it turned out, Graham's flat was directly across the street from mine, just a couple of floors lower. I wonder if I could see my window from his, and I remember I had this odd thought that if I had to look out, I'd need to be careful of his window box, as I could see the hooks attaching it to the frame. I asked him what he grew, and he gave me a look as though my concussion had stopped me making sense again. I mean, maybe it had, because when I looked back at the window, the hooks were gone, and there was no sign of any window box.
Whack.
At the time, I put it down to my head wound, and even now I'm not sure.
Please.
One sec. I'm becoming the Joker.
Please watch my stream. You're so sexy. Haha.
Oh,
We're just waiting for more people to come onto the call so we can actually do funny.
I'm becoming the Joker.
Shocked face. Oh god.
Hold on, let me see if I can put the Joker PNG into my BRB screen.
I'm becoming the Joker.
I need to hold on. Let me see if I can do it. Okay. Let me see. Oh, I have to save it. One sec. I'll get the image of the Joker, and it'll be smooth sailing from here. Maybe should I put the quack gif in the corner?
Put the quack gif in the corner. I need to download.
Okay,
I need to download the quack gif because I'm going to put it in my widgets right now.
Okay.
I need the fucking quack gif. It's the funny. It's
this, like,
our
right
favorite
here.
gif of all time.
Okay, everyone appreciate this gif. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Now we just gotta.
I was turning up my desktop audio so the stream picks up on you better.
The flat itself was a simple affair, quite big by London standards. It had only
So
a few
true,
pieces
so
of
true.
furniture and a lot of bookshelves, each covered with rows and rows of identical notebooks with no apparent marking system or indication of contents. I started to ask about them, but my head throbbed and I didn't feel up to any answer that might have been forthcoming. Graham led me to the sofa and disappeared to fetch me an ice pack and a mug of sugary tea. British people, am I right? Rolling eyes.
So true, so true.
Rolls my eyes vividly. British people.
Hi, I'm still here. Sorry, my laptop died. I'm gonna go make sure the call is all right and stuff. Can you hear me?
Isn't fallen in love with it.
Sorry, my laptop died. Homophobia. I'm back though. I plugged it in. Heart.
It had been in pretty bad shape, and he's spent a lot of time and a lot of money restoring it, though he'd never been able to figure out what that was supposed to go in the center. He assumed it was a separate piece and couldn't track it down. And yeah, like most of his conversation, I'd found it dull even when I wasn't concussed. But by this time, I began to feel well enough to leave and started to make my excuses to Graham. He expressed his concern, and said it had been as long enough as the medic suggested, but I had to, well, you get the picture. In the end, I did leave, and as I kept getting lost in lines of the table, and the pipes outside the window made such a weird noise that I didn't think staying was actually going to help me recover. I'm gonna become the Joker because of this episode again.
So true, so true.
Sorry, one sec. My boyfriend's sending me a message.
Yes, win.
Okay, back. I went straight home, making sure Graham couldn't see me from his window, and spent a few hours watching TV until I recovered enough to go to sleep. By the time I woke up the next morning, was feeling more or less okay, though I kept a plaster on the cut on my forehead, and tried not to think too much about the previous night. One evening, a few days later, though, I found myself staring out of my window, the one that faced the street, and I remembered how close Graham lived. I looked to see if I could figure out which window was his, and yep, sure enough, there he was. It was actually a remarkably clear view of his flat, and I could see him sat on the sofa reading one of the notebooks from his bookshelves. I realized that if I could see him so clearly, he could likely see me just as well, so he chose to look up. And with some of the remnant of my apprehension from that Friday, I decided to turn off the light in my flat so he wouldn't see me if he looked up. And then I went back to watching him. Yeah, I know that sounds creepy. It really wasn't meant to be. I said earlier that I really enjoy people watching, and regardless of how boring he may have been to speak to, Graham was weirdly compelling to watch. So that's what I just did. And not just that night either. Yeah, there's no non-sinister way to say that I've been watching Graham because it became my hobby. It was strange, I'll admit it, but I just couldn't stop myself. I reasoned that I wasn't watching him with any purpose or malice in mind. It was purely out of a detached interest in his life, and in my defense, I would have stopped a lot sooner if it hadn't been the bizarre things he would do. He would constantly reorder his journals without any apparent system or organization, most of the time without even opening them. Sometimes he would grab an apparently random notebook from his shelves and start scribbling in it, even though I could see that the page was already covered in writing.
It smells.
Sussy imposter.
It smells like vanilla in here.
What?
I think grandma's making cookies. I know that sounds silly and stuff, but I smell vanilla. And I mean like the vanilla spray stuff, not like the fake vanilla. The stuff you put into baking.
Like vanilla extract?
Yes. Yes, so true.
Okay. Once, and I swear this is true, I saw him take one of his notebooks and start to tear out the pages one at a time. And then, slowly and deliberately, he ate them. It must
What?
have taken him 3 hours to get through the whole book, but he didn't stop or pause. He just kept going.
Nom nom?
And when he what?
Haha, tasty
Hello?
book. Tasty book.
Me when I munch and I crunch.
Me when book.
This is like those boomer comics. This is what children are gonna do in the future to books.
Eat. Me when I
Even
crunch.
when he wasn't doing anything with the notebooks, there was an odd energy to him. From what I could see, he was constantly on edge, and every time any loud noise passed on the street below, a police siren, a breaking bottle, or wait, from what I could see, he was constantly on his edge and jumped every time any loud noise passed in the street below. A police siren, a breaking bottle. Hell, I even saw him freak out over an ice cream truck once.
A Breaking Bad?
Each time. Man's scared of ice cream trucks. Because ice cream trucks killed my grandma, okay?
Yeah.
Each time
when you
Oh.
like the funny?
True. Each time he'd leap to his feet, run to the window, and start looking out, wildly craning his neck from side to side. Sometimes he'd look up, but I learned his patterns well enough to avoid getting spotted. Then all at once, he'd decide there's no problem and go back to do what he was doing before.
Eat book.
And by doing what he was doing before, yeah, I mean nothing. He apparently didn't have a television or a computer. The only books that he seemed to own were his own notebooks, and I only ever saw him eat takeaway food. I don't know how many times I watched him eat the same pizza, pepperoni with jalapeno peppers and anchovies. Yeah, I know. But for the rest of the time, he just sat there smoking, sometimes looking into space, sometimes staring at that wooden table of his. And yeah, I remember the pattern was kind of hypnotic, and I spent more than a couple of minutes just staring at it myself when I was there. But he did almost nothing else. Who knows? Perhaps he had a rich and fulfilling life outside of the flat. He certainly left it regularly enough, and yeah, I wasn't so far enough to go and actually follow him. In fact, I'd always waited a good long while before leaving my own building to make sure I didn't bump into him. I still didn't want him to know where I lived, although now for very different reasons. In the end, though,
Oh,
it was a hobby, not an obsession. And often days I'd pass, I, often days would pass when I didn't see Graham at all. Maybe there was stuff I missed that would have explained his behavior. I just wish I'd missed what happened on April 7th. Then maybe I'd have just, I just thought he moved on, or I don't know. I just wish I hadn't seen it. Smile so wide, grin so big.
hi, hi, hi. Hi.
Hello.
Fucking good.
Oh,
Like,
it's Shinx. Hi.
Hi, I'm reading out Magnus Archive.
Yeah, it's me. Oh, nice. I'm probably gonna leave my mic muted just because I don't want Discord to like be too staticky on your end. But
Also, you don't want to gunk up the streams. we're going
I don't wanna
batshit. We're
do-
becoming the Jokers.
oh no.
Yeah, because we're listening to these streams, we're becoming the Joker, so.
Oh god. Oh fuck. Yeah. Really.
We're not actually doing anything in particular. We're just waiting for more people to come on.
Bro, it's been dead the past like 3 days.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I've been meaning to be more active because ever since we started the campaign, I've just been plotting for that, so.
Yeah, you gotta do the funny so more people
I'd
are
be
here.
interested in doing an archiving campaign episode live. That'd be curious.
That'd be funny. We could do that, but like later. Cause didn't we have one planned for today, and then Quack and Bill decided to shut their ups?
Yeah, that's
Fucked
mean.
up, man.
Sucks.
Like
They're like,
I'm
yeah.
walking over lava. I'm fine.
They're like, yeah, I'll be available, and then they weren't. And then they didn't.
Bill, if you're watching this stream, which I know you aren't, I'm so
What?
mad. I'm becoming the
Oof.
Joker.
Oof,
I'm going to Joker into your house.
oof, oof. Did I just find lore that I wasn't supposed to? Oof.
What did you
wait,
find?
Where'd you find lore? Is it the
Gray
box?
shulker box. Yes, it is yours.
Okay, that should be fine. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone
I
ignore
was-
that. You didn't hear anything. There's no BCSMP lore. There's no BCS.
There's no BCSMP lore yet.
I was planning on doing that a couple days ago, but nobody showed up, and I need at least 3 people who hang out around Gabriel to fucking do it. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just leave it there. But I
it
put
later,
out my
actually,
shulker
I
box,
think.
and I needed to transport shit.
Okay.
I'd
hold on,
be
let me finish
available. I'd be available at pretty much any time.
I am also available
just
most
whatever, I
times,
don't wanna,
except
like-
for this weekend because we're leaving to go place. Anyways.
Oh
anyways,
no! To the farm.
Anyways,
Don't go to
work
the
had been
farm.
intense for a couple of months, so many late nights I had to drop out of my course. With so many late nights I'd have to drop out of my course. It was just as well, really. I hadn't really spoken to Graham since the night I suffered my head injury. I think he still felt awkward about it, and I'd seen him do so many weird things alone in his flat that I think I'd have struggled to have a normal conversation with him. Anyway, this week I had barely any time to eat, let alone do much in the way of Graham watching. So when I got home around 10:30 at night, my first thought was to just fall into bed, but it was Friday and I had drunk a huge amount of coffee to keep me going at work. So, yeah, I was wired and looking forward to a long lie-in the next day. So, when I saw Graham's light was still on, I decided to spend a relaxing few minutes checking on him. Uh-oh, this Hold on, I have to do mental preparation.
Why? What's wrong? What's going on here?
Sorry, no, I have to like mentally prepare myself for the paranoia this is gonna cost me for the next like 2 days.
Oh. You shouldn't be reading it then?
Yeah, I have to read this. Okay. Before we begin, trigger warning for hold on, I have to go to the top again. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me just do this. Before we continue, trigger warning for unreality, yeah. Unreality, and on a serious note, imposters.
Legit? Real shit?
Yeah.
Mogus?
And the
Is that
idea
a
of
motherfucking Among Us
getting replaced.
Oh. Oomph.
So yeah, his light may have been on, but I couldn't see him, and I wondered if perhaps he'd gone to bed and I simply forgot to turn it off. more likely he was just in the bedroom, or bathroom, sorry.
Happens,
So I
happens.
decided to wait a while longer. As I stared out that window, I realized there was something, I don't know, off about it. It looked different somehow, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Then I'd notice it. At first, I'd just taken it to be a water pipe running down the side of a building, attached just below Graham's open window. The light from the oh yeah, also warning for like creatures crawling at night and shit.
Creature.
At first, the light from the street lamps didn't reach up to his fourth flat, and his fourth floor flat. Say that 5 times fast. And the window ledge cast a shadow that stopped the light from the room illuminating it. But it looked like a long, straight, dark. But it was long, straight, dark, and what I could see it from what I could see, it just looked like a pipe. Except I'd been watching that window for months now, and I would have sworn there'd never been a pipe there before. As I stared at it, it moved and started to bend slowly, and I realized I was looking at an arm, a long, thin arm. And as it bent the joint closer to where the arm ended, I think I saw another joint further down.
Muted on the stream. And I'm muting the stream, so we could just live reaction without it being heard on the stream. Lots of background noise going on also.
passport, guys. It's
Like the
so fun.
passport, like the